Welcome to a new episode of Loomer Unleashed. I'm your host, Laura Loomer. And on today's episode of Loomer Unleashed, we're going to talk about how Governor Ron DeSantis was just slammed with an ethics complaint by President Trump's super PAC. I've been saying for months now that Ron DeSantis has been illegally running a shadow presidential campaign in violation of FEC rules and Florida's Resign to Run law. The worst kept secret in the state of Florida is the fact that Ron DeSantis is indeed going to be running for president in 2024 by primarying President Donald Trump for the GOP nominee. He has not yet filed, and that's, of course, the catch-22, because essentially what his book tour is a shadow campaign for his presidential campaign that he has not yet announced. Why has he not announced yet? He's waiting for the Florida Republican legislature to change the Florida Resign to Run law, which would require the governor resign his position within 10 days of filing to run if he decided to run for president. Looks like everything I've been telling you since day one of the Ron DeSantis book tour, when he called the cops on me and a group of Trump supporters who were simply showing support for President Trump in the parking lot of a Books-A-Million in Leesburg, Florida, has clearly turned out to be true. Imagine that. And now NBC News has published a draft of an ethics complaint that has been drafted by Make America Great Again, Inc., a pro-Trump super PAC against Governor Ron DeSantis for alleged campaign finance violations, FEC violations, and violations of various Florida statutes. According to the complaint, there is strong evidence that Governor Ron DeSantis has engaged in illegal conduct pursuant to Section 112.3132 of the Florida statutes, prohibition on solicitation and acceptance of gifts, Article 2, Section 8H2 of the Florida Constitution with his wrongful intent evidenced by his violations of the Federal Campaign Finance Act of 1971, prohibition on gifts from political committees, and violations of numerous Florida statutes, including the prohibition on accepting illegal lobbying payments, prohibition on misuse of public position, and prohibition on conflicting employment or contractual relationships. I also want to point out that Ron DeSantis has not yet filed a presidential exploratory committee, which has established rules for potential candidates and defines the difference between testing the waters and officially campaigning. According to the official FEC.gov website, in their section regarding what they call testing the waters versus campaigning, it says, an individual may carry out a variety of activities to test the waters. Examples of permissible testing the waters includes conducting polling, traveling, and making telephone calls to determine whether the individual should become a candidate. Compare that to what the FEC defines as campaigning as opposed to testing the waters. Here's a few examples. Make or authorize statements that refer to themselves as candidates, use general public political advertising to publicize their intention to campaign, inform the media, either directly or through an advisor, that they will announce their candidacy on a certain date, raise more money than what is reasonably needed to test the waters or funds to be used after a candidacy is established, conduct activities over a protracted period of time or shortly before the election, or taking action to qualify for the ballot. It's pretty evident that Ron DeSantis is no longer testing the waters, and for quite some time now, he has been campaigning and running a shadow 2024 presidential campaign. Taken from the FEC's own website, we can prove today that Ron DeSantis is campaigning through multiple FEC qualifiers. Number one, informing the media that he will announce a candidacy on a certain date. In a March 6 interview with Sean Hannity on Fox News, Sean Hannity asked Ron DeSantis if he's running for president in 2024. Take a listen.
I know it's the question that a lot of people have been asking, and there's a lot of speculation that you might be getting into the 2024 presidential race. I know your answer. I hate to ask questions that I think I know the answer to. What is your answer?
No, it's all good, Sean. I appreciate it. As you know, I have my State of the State tomorrow. We've got a great legislative session coming up. I mean, we won a big victory, swept in a lot of people to office. That's a vindication of what we did the last 4 years. It was also an opportunity. So we're really laser focused on that. As you mentioned, we do have the book, The Courage to Be Free. Give us a few months on that. I think we're going to put up a lot of wins, and then we'll be in a better position to make a decision about the future.
Is it fair to say you're thinking about it?
I think it's fair to say that I have people coming up to me and asking me to do it all the time.
As you can see from this clip, DeSantis indicated that he's filing once the Florida legislative session is over. therefore triggering the end of the FEC's definition of the testing the waters period. Additionally, Ron DeSantis has also raised more money than what is reasonably needed to test the waters and has substantial funds left over from his 2022 gubernatorial race, which he likely intends to transfer over and use for a presidential candidacy. He can't run for governor again because Florida governors are termed out after 2 consecutive terms. So what's he going to do with the millions of dollars that he has left over from his campaign? And third, Ron DeSantis is certainly conducting activities over a protracted period of time or shortly before the election. This can be seen in the way that Ron DeSantis has a national book tour that is coinciding with his highly publicized speeches in key caucus and primary states that one must win in order to secure the GOP nomination. Additionally, there has been widespread speculation and media reports that Ron DeSantis and his allies, either through PACs, LLCs, and other forms of dark money, have recruited and are allegedly paying a group of conservative social media influencers overseen by Christina Pusha, who serves as Governor Ron DeSantis' official rapid response director and former press secretary. It is illegal for elected officials to mix their official taxpayer-funded staffing operations with official campaign business. On page 5 of the drafted complaint that is set to be filed by President Trump's PAC, they rightfully accuse Ron DeSantis of using his taxpayer-funded security detail as governor of Florida to provide personal protection for himself at his out-of-state shadow presidential activities, including his book tour. Now, if you read and subscribe to my Substack, you wouldn't have even needed to read the complaint because most of what's been included in this complaint has already been reported by me on my Substack and my Twitter feed through my investigation of Ron DeSantis' shadow presidential campaign. As always, I'm ahead of the curve. And I'm really happy that I'm not the only one who has noticed these violations because it looks like President Trump and the Trump campaign have been reading my Substack and my Twitter feed. And you should too. So if you haven't already subscribed to my Substack, please do so today at lauraloomer.substack.com. It's free to subscribe, but a small monthly subscription fee of $7 per month or $70 per year helps ensure that I can continue providing you these hard-hitting investigative reports. You can also follow me on Twitter, Gab, Truth Social, and Getter Today at Laura Loomer. I also want to take a moment to thank the sponsor of today's video, freedomlawschool.org. It's tax season, and you want to make sure that you're able to keep as much of your money as possible and not get robbed by the federal government. So if you need help or advice on your taxes, please contact the good folks over at freedomlawschool.org and tell them that Laura Loomer sent you. See you next time on Loomer Unleashed.